Hello everyone, my name is LBK and this is King Pie Podcast. On today's episode, we are going to talk about the Women's T20 Challenge, the recent edition, of course, which has been 3 weeks, so it's not that recent to be honest. For those who do not know what Women's T20 Challenge is, it is like a mini women's IPL where three teams, Supernova, Trailblazers, and Velocity, play each other in a round robin, and then the top two teams end up playing the final. This year, the final was played between Velocity and Supernova, where Supernova defeated Velocity by 4 runs in a close game to claim the title. Teams in the Women's T20 Challenge have still a lot of uncertainty factor. I mean, the foreign players are still not certain. There's always someone getting in or getting out every year. Obviously, this year we had no players from Australia or New Zealand. Mostly the players that played overseas. Obviously, the teams in the Women's T20 Challenge are often a bit uncertain. The, the overseas players are often uncertain. There's different bunch showing up every year. Sometimes there's Australians, there's South Africans, there's English players. As of this year, there were no Aussie or Kiwi players. Most of the players, overseas players to be honest, were from South Africa, being Laura Bolvart, Suni Luz, and some others. While from England there was Sophie Eccleston, Kate Cross, Sophia Dunkley, and many others, and also including Chantham, who is one of the more promising associate players in the recent times. Now, obviously, the three teams that are Trailblazers, Velocity, and Supernova. Supernova was led by Harmanpreet Kaur from India. Trailblazers were led by Smriti Mandhana, while Velocities led by Deepti Sharma. Obviously, the tournament has been going on for 4 years now. See, the 2021 version was cancelled due to the COVID, but still the tournament has carried for most of the years except for 2021. And obviously, this year the tournament gained a lot of pace because it was played on much better pitches than it usually is. The Pune pitch being pretty flat in comparison to what they've usually gotten. As we know, the highest total in the tournament before this edition was only 145, but that total was breached in 7 out of the 8 innings that were played in the tournament, and it is a really good thing to be honest. All the matches were really close except for the opener, which Trailblazers lost in a very one-sided fashion. Other than that, there was the game between Velocities and Supernova, where Velocity chased down a decently big total of 151, while the game between Trailblazers and Velocity got pretty interesting as Trailblazers scored a big total on the back of 50s from Meghna and Jemima Rodriguez, while Velocity, on the other hand, got big innings from Kiran Navgire, although she could not take a team over the line, but the game was interesting and entertaining to say the least. Also, the game eliminated Trailblazers from the competition as they had lost their first game by big margin. It had to restrict Velocity to 159, which they couldn't, leading to us in the final, which was between the Velocity and Supernovas, where Supernova scored 165 in their innings on the back of good scores from Manpreet Kaur, Leandra Doughton, while Velocity, who had done really well batting wise, the tournament fell apart on that day. Laura Bolvart and Simran Bahadur fought really well. Kiran Pire getting very disheartening duck of 14 balls, but ultimately the fight ended up the wrong side for them as the Supernovas claimed the title by 4 runs, and it was quite a thrilling match to say the least. Moving on to the positives that came out of this tournament, and there were a lot of them. To begin with, there were a lot of young Indian players that showed up and performed really well. Obviously, Jemima Rodriguez has been part of Indian T20 setup for a while now. She had done well for the national team, the 100 and the Big Bash, but this time she showed up in the tournament as well, scoring a great 66 against the Velocity. And in the same game, Meghna, who till now had not gotten many chances either in T20 or ODI side, finally showed up to the tournament, scored a very fast 76, probably one of the best innings of the tournament. And on the other end, from the Velocity side, there was Kiran Navgire, who had a lot of hype around her before coming in the tournament, and she paid it off, scoring the fastest 50 of the tournament, which was probably one of the best things about the tournament itself. Another positive was how well some of the pre-established names in Indian cricket performed, like Harmanpreet Kaur, who has been in a great form recently, obviously during the World Cup, the WBBL, and now here as well. She carried her team in almost all the games. There was Palin Deol who did well. Simrandil Bahadur came clutch at a very important time for her team, although she could not take them across the line, but she performed really well and did not have a lot of luck on her side, especially with the fielding. A lot of catches being dropped off her bowling, especially in that Trailblazers game, which was kind of bad. Now moving on to the negatives. Obviously, the tournament is still very short. There's not a lot of hype or publicity around the tournament, which is obviously bad. And another thing around the tournament is obviously the overseas players' uncertainty kind of hurts the overall viewership of the tournament, as there's players often missing from Australia or New Zealand or even South Africa. Now, to be fair, BCCI has put in the word that there might be a bigger version of women's IPL coming in from the next year, probably with 5 to 6 teams, and the franchisees of current IPL teams might get a chance to refuse or accept the ownership of those teams from the WIPL as well. But that is the thing for the future. For now, the tournament is still short. It does not give the women a fair chance to show their skills, as there's limited time, limited overs, and obviously limited amount of matches for them to perform. And one failure or two might lead their team to get eliminated, as you saw with Trailblazers. Now, obviously, since we know that there's going to be a tournament in the future, but there will be more teams, more games, and obviously big money for these players, which is a really good thing. To be honest, I mean, it would obviously help a lot of players that are right now kind of on the back burner due to maybe the money issue or not getting enough chances to come to the forefront and show how talented they are or how capable they are. And on the other hand, obviously, this is the time where the women's cricket is much more popular. I mean, it's obviously not early 2000s or something. The South Africans, the Kiwis, the New Zealanders, and the Aussie players are equally famous in India or in any other country, and people would love to see them. So there's no reason for them not to show up in the women's IPL auction. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of curiosity who where, Sahili, there's Ashley Gardner, Perry, Cap, Devian, Lizelle Lee, there's Kit Cross, Brand Siver. The possibilities are endless, and ultimately the tournament will get more famous and will get longer, bigger, and to be honest, a very, very lucrative one in the future. What do you guys think? Do you think the future for women's cricket is T20 cricket, or do you want them to push in a different direction? Maybe the tests might be their future, or maybe they want to go to the franchisee route as well, especially even what the money means for them. Please let me know. And as always,